Hey everybody, welcome back. It's more fun at the Red Barn. If you watched last time, you'll know that it only took me 3 tries. Might be a world record. It only took me 3 tries to land on an exhaust system design that I liked for the Ferrari swap Porsche 914. In this episode, I'm going to see how far I can get and if I can finish that exhaust system. Or will I make changes and not finish it? Place your bets now. Oh, and if you're watching about the kitties, it's at the end, and this is the last week we have them here at the Red Barn, and then they're off to try to find their forever homes. Enjoy. All right, we're back to Kudos to Summit. I ordered these yesterday, and they're here today, and it's only good heavens. It's barely 12 o'clock. I mentioned I wanted to run a swaged setup instead of a V-band, and these are what are called, called the double slip. And you can see why they call it double slip is it's actually a 2.5-inch tube with this little over piece that's welded here, creating a channel, if you will, for this bit of swage tube to slide into. So for an exhaust leak to occur, you know, it'd have to go past the inner sleeve, loop back, come past this intermediate sleeve, loop back, and come out here. So pretty low probability that these things are going to leak. This is a Vibrant performance product, and man oh man, I mean, it is really beautifully made, and you know, I couldn't be happier. This is lovely. So now it's a question of exactly where they go, and the short version of this is the farther forward in the car this goes, the better for things like getting the axle out, because I want to have as little sticking out after the header collector as I can. So now it's just a matter of slicing this up and grafting this in here, and we'll have the next step of this exhaust system taken care of. Just a couple of little tacks to verify fit, but there is a header side double slip right together, and yeah, there we go. So now let's go see if this fits. That is freaking awesome. So you can see got a great fit at the header. It's lovely. There's no V-band action, which is, you know, like I say, heavy, etc. And if I take you around here, the money shot is that it doesn't, well, it's a little teeny weeny bit lower than this, but nothing like a V-band would be. So I like that a lot. So I can now final weld all that and then start going to work on finishing the other side. Well, changing the design is one reason to have to do things over, but welding the extension on the wrong piece of pipe is a whole other one. So I'm under there trying to get this to fit after it was already in there, and I'm like, why is this not working? And then I realized if you look at where on the radius that extension happens, you can see that this is much shorter into the radius than this, even though they're the same angle. And what that means is this thing was kicked at a completely wrong angle. And I'm like, this won't fit, this won't fit. And then I looked at him again and went, ah, there's always a reason. So, yeah, so I just got to knock these tacks off and clean this end up and put this extension on this side. This is the back end. This one goes right at the header. So I should have marked them, but lesson learned. Well, that's better. And now you can see That thing is fit really nicely. That was a very scary, very scary mistake, because I thought, oh my God, this isn't going to work at all. But it did. So now, same thing. The angles of these things don't matter now with that slip joint. All I got to do is get the distance right, and they'll rotate into position, you know, like that. It's just the coolest. I really like those double slips. All right, there they both are, and everything fits really well. I'm going to climb up my ladder and show you my favorite view of everything now. It's kind of the whole drivetrain. And boy, oh boy, am I happy with that. I think it's looking really, really good. Okay, back at it, but I didn't film any of me climbing around under the car, tacking this stuff in place, because it's pretty boring. But for the very first time, no rear bracket hanging there at all, so that's about what it's gonna look like. I think that's gonna look pretty cool, and it worked out. Now again, there's a little bit of adjustment left, but it really is about the same angle as that corner of the fender. So I'm happy with that, and I think what I'll do is get this side done next to get it to the same state, and then work up the rear hanger. But yeah, happy coming right along. We are now seeing for the very first time unsupported headers, unsupported mufflers, no brackets, no clamps hanging down below. That is that. So now to work up a rear bracket. So typical approach, I just come up with a prototype. This is just super thin sheet metal, completely not going to work, but it allows me to get dimensions and position and style and all that other good stuff. So let me show you how this is going to potentially work. All right, this is the factory Ferrari mount. Or the basis for the factory Ferrari muffler mount. A whole different kind of setup, but you can see what it does. I was thinking I might use this as the basis, but it's really big and it's really heavy. One of the other considerations is I have to be able to get the muffler out, you know, and it's welded at this joint, and it has to come out of the slip fit. So it has to slide back far enough, and the good news, it was keeping me awake last night. But there's plenty of room to get it out, so that's good. But what that means is the tabs need to be fairly close to the actual muffler body. So you can see kind of what I'm thinking is this would be something, you know, something like in here with a tab that comes up, and the reason for those two bolts is that'll prevent the muffler from tipping out of plane. It'll lock it into a completely horizontal position. You know, when I mentioned I was thinking about something that might pick up this curve, but when I started designing in CAD, it ends up being more of a hoop, and it looks kind of dorky. So I think I'm going to go with this look, which is kind of the same shape as the back of the trans. You know, there's angles like this in here. So I think that's going to look cool. And it's really just a question of how do I take advantage of the factory mounts and get this back down into here. So we'll see what I come up with. Well, as I'm getting into this rear muffler bracket, I decided that I was gonna refixture the mufflers now that everything's tied down at the front. So I'm gonna remake a rear muffler jig. And one of the comments that I got was, hey, that plasma table, what's going on with that? And I realized that even though I've covered this in previous episodes, not everybody watches every episode. So the real quick overview of this whole process is I work up a 2D drawing in this product I use called QCAD. And once I've got the drawing done, that gets imported into a product called SheetCam. And this is the system that generates the G code. And it's already set up to do it, but what this has is a series of what they call tools, and this allows you to say, you know, what's the thickness of the material you're cutting, what kind of consumables is your torch running, and then this has a bunch of standard settings for things like, you know, how fast the torch can travel when cutting that kind of material with this kind of consumable, you know, what the lead-ins and lead-outs to the cuts need to look like or how you want them to be done. There's all kinds of configuration stuff that goes on in there. And then once you've got this set up, you generate the G code, And the G code is what is actually running the table. This app is called Command CNC. This is the G code over here. And this is the actual system that says, okay, you know, travel to this X position, this Y position, and do this. You know, either fire the torch or, you know, move at this direction, at this speed, blah, blah, blah. So this is actually the control system that I'm going to use. And I've gone ahead and set up the table. I've already zeroed the torch and I've got it where I want it to be. And pardon me, I'm embarrassed, but the table is so dirty that I need to clean it and change everything out. So I have the water out of it, and I'm just going to cheap out and use the hose to do this cut. I'm just going to use the hose and follow the torch around. So give me a second and I'll get this piece cut. All right, and there's that. So let me get this tidied up and clean up these holes, and we'll see how we did. And here's how we did. It fits absolutely beautifully. And the big difference is, I guess the mistake I made with the first version was I used these bosses as the pickup point and ended up having to bend the part. And obviously when you've got sheet metal that's bent, it can start to unbend. So it wasn't really holding the rear ends of the mufflers exactly stable. And this one, because it's farther back, it's just a straight shot down, it actually lines up perfectly. And best news of all, pardon me, it's morning time, so I might have some backlighting here, but I mean, look at that. It just locates them perfectly. And yeah, there's some slop in the bolt holes, so you can play with that a teeny bit. But the good news is, like as you can see here, I can get them exactly where I want them to be. So that worked out great. And now I have all the dimensions I need, and I can measure up this mount. So everything I do from here on, I know exactly where these tips are going to end up, which is exactly what I wanted. So I can play with design within the measurement parameters of what I now know for sure. And really now it's about style points and how do I want to do the connections and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go play around with that and see what I can come up with. Do I look exhausted? I feel exhausted. I've been working on this bracket all day. And here's what I got. So as I mentioned, I didn't like this Ferrari mount bracket thing because it was too bulky and too big. And as it turns out, as much as I was saying, you know, hey, look at it, it puts that bracket hanger, that fixture, right in line with, you know, with the mufflers. Well, except for it didn't put it at the right angle, which means this was never going to work. And rather than try to tip a bracket down here, which just fell, I decided, nope, I'm going to abbreviate this bracket. And so I think you can see what I did. I cut it all to pieces, kept the base mount where it was, and cut the part that held the muffler bracket and moved it forward and at the correct angle so that when it drops straight down, it ends up right where I want it on the mufflers. And I've got half of it done, and now I got to match the other side and make sure everything stays straight and in plane. And then, as I mentioned, what fell to the ground was the muffler bracket, or the bracket that goes on the muffler. And so this, if I slip it in here, this is going to sit, it's going to sit like that, and that'll get welded directly to the exhaust pipe, exhaust tip, and tie up, and you can see it's going to tie right up onto that bracket. Now obviously this ring's not going to be here, but I started playing with that, and then I thought that has no style points at all, and we can't have that. So I made this, and it's a little screaming man face who's frightened, because who wouldn't be frightened in this car? But it's going to be one of those you got to know kind of looks, because it's just going to be this super cool looking bracket that hangs out right there. And so this is what that's going to be, and this is what that's going to be. And the nice thing about it is I can now either cap, I can do like a T structure on just sheet metal here, or, you know, thicker sheet metal than this, or I can do a box structure by making two of these and putting a cap on it or something like that. And that bracket is, you know, what we've been playing with all day, but here's the CAD drawing of what likely will be the bracket. And you can see kind of what I've gotten up to is I'll just paste this over. I'll show you how I actually do this. I move this stuff around on the drawing, and this is just an example. But here's how I come up with the shapes and the specs and the dimensions, right? So I started off with that bracket drawing that you saw me use that's in the car right now, and then I just reshaped where I want the bracket to end, and then I shaped where I wanted the muffler bracket to be. And having those holes be coincidental in the drawing means that when I make that and I bolt it to that, it's going to locate right around that exhaust pipe, and it's going to keep everything exactly where we want it. And I think I'm just going to spend the rest of the afternoon trying to finish up this mount, and that'll free me up to then know exactly what I have and where it's going to end up when I go to make that hanger bracket. So back to it. Well, after all that, this is the fixture I finally came up with that worked. And I used the original Ferrari mount, pinned these things down, the little cut-off corner components, and then centered that, got it leveled relative to this level, and got it tacked on. So, I think that's it. I'm gonna go fit it again and see how it did. It worked! It worked great. Look at this. Now, obviously, it's not pretty yet, but this will be easy enough to just make a couple of little fill pieces and shape a couple of these other areas to make that work. But there's what I was after. It tips at the right angle. To get the bracket right where I want it to pick up the tab that's going to be pretty close to the muffler. So, yay. And it doesn't look, I mean, obviously you got to squint to make it mint, as I've said. But when this is prettied up, this and maybe painted black, it'll probably disappear. But I think that is going to be really nice. It doesn't look like this big giant metal box anymore. So I'm calling that a success. And now to tidy that up and get to work on the actual bracket itself. So after a bunch more work, here's the greatly abbreviated mount, and it still keeps things in the same plane. But I cut this piece off and shortened everything. Martin came by yesterday and we were talking about this, and we agreed that the lower that got, the less bulky the entire bracket would look. And so this was shortened, and everything else is the same, other than, you know, it's prettier now. It still needs a bit of tidying up, but this is the last version, the latest version of the muffler jig. And so you can see, you know, I just knocked, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch off of the height. Not that it's that big of a deal, but, you know, every little bit helps when it's, you know, getting into trying to make this thing look small. And oh boy, I'm going all in on making it small. After thinking about this some more and playing around with a couple things, what I realized was if I took the bracket, and this is the latest design, so I'll talk about that in a second, but if I took the bracket and just let it fall all the way down till its top hole was in the bottom hole of the mount, it moves everything down a whole bunch, and I don't even need those top tabs. Those 2 bolts are going to be plenty to hold that thing in there. And you can also see that I've got plans, if this little Sharpie line, this is just a flanged bolt that goes all the way through and threads in to the transmission case up here. So I have to be able to have that same bolt in there. But I only need as much space on this mount as is needed for that flange to get purchased. So I can cut another, I don't know, 1/4 inch off the back of this thing, and then I'm going to angle it up until it just gets above the same situation here. So I got enough purchase for these fasteners. And this thing's going to be teeny. And, you know, I was all worried about how to get these mufflers out. But remember, I've got the double slip at the front, and I was worried about these having to pull straight out. Well, remember, I have all these lovely angles in here. And so what I was verifying is with this bracket here, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to change these dimensions and get this way up here. But as it turns out, if I, with this disconnected, if I rotate the muffler around the slip joint, right, it just rotates down and out it comes underneath the bumper. So I don't need to worry about the distance back for where that tab goes. And when I put it back in, as you can see, it goes in and it rotates up into place, and we're back where we were. So that's going to work out super well. All right, then I mentioned the new bracket, and here, maybe a little confusing. The black line is this big outer upper line, and the exhaust tips and exhaust rings, that's the muffler jig that I've been working with. And you can see here that the bottom holes of the muffler jig have become the top holes of the bracket, and you can see the dimensional differences in where I started and where I ended up by lowering things. And yeah, it's much closer to the transaxle case, but isn't that better? I mean, it's less material, it's sleeker. So that gets you current with the saga of the muffler bracket. And I was hoping to get farther, but typical at the Red Barn process means multiple iterations of stuff, and things taking longer than I originally thought. But I'm really happy with how this is proceeding, and the goal being make that thing as small as possible, and it's getting pretty small. So I'm happy with that. I will say that Martin has been on me big time to start from scratch with the design for that mount that doesn't use any of the factory Ferrari part at all, and is, now that we know exactly what we need, we could probably come up with something that's even sleeker and even cooler. But I don't have to do that to keep the build going forward. I may come back and revisit that as a separate sub-project. But for now, I'm going to continue on with this and move on to other stuff that's actually going to get the car running. So again, that's going to do it for this episode. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. Leave me a comment, leave me a share, like, all that good stuff. It helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate that too. And oh, hold on, and we're going to take one last visit on the kitties while they're at the Red Barn before they head off to spay and neuter this Sunday, and then down to Morty's, and we'll check in on them there too. But until next time, everybody take care. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. Okay, here we go. Last kitty update before spay and neuter clinic. We're heading out here in the evening. Oh, and there's Julep. Hi, Mama J. Hi, Mama J. Hi, how are you? And let's see the babies.
Oh, everybody's sleeping.
Oh, everybody's sleeping. Everybody's in there. Almost everybody's in the cat tree. There's Punchman and Smash. The boys are upstairs. And Vesper's kind of on the second floor. And little Toddy's already down looking for a little action. Oh, and here comes Mama Julep. Oh my goodness, they're so cute. All right, so it's Thursday afternoon. They are heading in for the spay and neuter on Sunday, and that is going to be it. They are not coming back here for recovery, as it turns out. There's a room for them at Morty's, so they're going to go right from the spay and neuter. Oh, big yawn. They're going right from the spay and neuter to Morty's. So this is going to be the last time we see him here at the Red Barn. Look at these boys. Oh my goodness, it's the Punch Man. He's such a cutie. Hello, big man. Oh, could you be any cuter? And we're getting all kinds of action on them from the posts about them on Morty's Facebook pages. We've got people that are asking when they're going to be available. So we would not be surprised if they did not last very long at Morty's before they go off to their forever homes. Hi, Mama Julep. How are you? Pretty girl.
Hi, Smash.
Pretty girl. And there's Toddy. Everybody's kind of quiet right now.
Takes them a while to wake up.
Yeah, not very maniacal here. It's about 7.
And their shoes to investigate.
Oh, yep. And they're out there at my shoes. They love the shoes. Oh, and look at Mama. Mama's coming up for scratches. She is such a pretty girl, and she's such a nice kitty. So calm. Hi, Mom. How are you? And, so she's going to be here the whole time with them. We thought that Julep might be separated from them to help her milk dry up. So what's probably going to happen then is she's not going to get, look at the tired boy. Julep's not going to get spayed this clinic. They're going to wait until she's separated from the kids and her milk dries completely up, and then she's going to go in on her own, not at a clinic time, just as a regular appointment. Oh yeah, here they go. They're getting a little bit more active. Look at little Toddy. She's so cute. Hi. Hi. How are you, little one? How are you? Yeah. So what an adventure this has been.
Sweetie.
And so, yep, I want to say big thanks to my wife, Lori, for the great job she's done with the fostering of this family and the awesome names she picked for them. They're getting a lot of play because of their names. And they are just wonderful little kitty cats. So we're going to say goodbye from the Red Barn for as far as the kitty updates, and I'll be down to Morty's once they get down there just to show you that place. So, as always, support your local rescue and spay and neuter, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Vesper. Bye, Mama Julep. Bye-bye, Smash Man. Goodbye, Punch. Goodbye, Punch. And where's... Oh, she's right here. And let's just say one last time. Goodbye, Toddy. Goodbye. Okay, see y'all.